What's going on, guys? Stefan, S&E's Garage. Today we're going to be replacing the brakes on our 275,000 mile Jeep Wrangler JKU. So for those of you that are new to the channel, we bought this Jeep last March, I want to say, with 267,000 miles on it. It had a very bad torque converter shutter, and we ended up having to put a transmission in it. We tried to save it, no go. So this is not our daily driver. We strictly use this, as you can see, for going in the woods, going on trail rides, and we take it on the beach too. If you look back here, here's our trusty little beach pass. Now, I've already replaced the rear brakes. It got pads and rotors. Now in the front, it's time for front brakes. And we're gonna be doing something that I ordinarily never do. All of my daily drivers, whenever they need brakes, they get pads and rotors. But, like I said, we typically only use this in the woods or on the beach. And the rotors are actually in really, really nice shape. The brake pads are just damaged, and I'll show you what happened once we start taking it apart. So, we're gonna be pad slapping it. Now, we're going to be using ceramic brake pads. I needed these in a pinch. Ordinarily, I would have ordered something on Amazon, but what I will do, I'll put a link for something similar to these down in the description below. I typically only run ceramic pads. They're quieter and they're easier on the rotors. They don't damage the rotors. So that's what we're going to be using. And then down here, we are going to be using our Lang 277 caliper compressor. And that is really the only special tool that you're going to need to do this job. So let's go ahead, jack the front of the Jeep up. We're just going to do one side at a time. So let's go ahead, we'll start on this side, pull the wheel off, and get the caliper ready. Now with this Jeep, we do have wheel spacers on here. If you were doing this and changing your rotors and you had spacers, you're gonna wanna take them off. If you don't have spacers, you're gonna be fine. So let's get in, show you exactly what we're gonna do. I'm gonna bring you over here with us and kind of show you where we're at. Now, like I mentioned, ordinarily, I don't do this and I don't recommend pad slapping. Always replace your rotors. But if you insist on pad slapping, you're gonna wanna check the friction surface of your rotor. If you have a nasty lip up here, or you have rust buildup anywhere on the surface area of the rotor, I definitely recommend replacing them. But in our case, these rotors are in good shape. So I'm gonna reuse them with a clear conscience. Now, you're gonna have to remove your caliper bolts. You have a 13 millimeter here and a 13 millimeter here. That's gonna go ahead and get the caliper off. If you were doing your rotors, you would then have to take these caliper bracket bolts off here. They look like they're probably a 21 maybe. Let's try. Yeah, so a 21 would take them off. So we're gonna go ahead, remove our caliper. We're gonna use our Lang caliper compressor to compress it, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and break this loose. Man, someone fucking crank this thing. And one thing we're going to check is our slide pins. You'll see they are sliding very nicely. So let's come down here. Same thing. Break that one loose. Okay, set them aside. Let's check this slide pin. This one is seized, so that could be a part of our problem here. Let's go ahead. Get this caliper off, just set it aside. All right, and like I said, this slide pin's good. This one, not so much. So let's try to get this one out and clean it up. But what we can do right now is go ahead, take our pads off. You'll see this side one of the reasons I'm doing this, you can see, is the pad is what's known as rust jacking. It's coming apart. It's coming off of the backing plate, and I noticed this the last time I checked it. So that's the main reason we're doing them. But go ahead and get that apart. Now we're going to try to free this pin up. So I am just going to try to use an air hammer here on this lip. Like so. And shoot that pin out. So now that we got it out and it's shot all the way under here, okay, we can clean this up with some emery cloth or some Scotch-Brite, which I have laying around here somewhere, and then put it back in. So here we have our Scotch-Brite, and we're just gonna put this guy in it here and twist like so. And that should clean it up good enough. So now what I like to do is I'll try to find a drill bit that is a similar size, excuse me, to the slide pin. So here are my drill bits. And I'll use the flutes by hand here to go ahead and clean whatever gunk and crud is inside of this bore. So you'll see how dirty, nasty this ends up looking. So I'll just do this, like I said, by hand, wiggle it around a little bit. I'll go ahead and reinstall my dust boot, and then we'll take some Wagner silicone brake parts lubricant, okay, and we'll insert this pin back in, and we'll twist while we put it back in. And now you'll see we went from a seized pin to a fully floating pin. And even though this one is still good, we're going to take it out and give it just a little looby-dooby. Perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and clean off our hardware here and slide our new pads in. We're just going to use a little paper towel here with some brake clean on it. And just clean these slides up. Like so. Okay. Ordinarily I would take them completely apart, and if I was replacing the rotors, I would take them completely apart and wire brush them, but we are not doing that. So it is what it is. Let's go ahead and open these up. Now these pads do not appear to have, oh yeah, they do. Okay, cool. They have squealers on them. So the squealer is always going to be on the leading edge of the rotor. So this is actually the brake pad for the other side. This one is going to be the one for this side. Actually, did they screw up? They screwed up. Squealers are on the same side. So one of these is actually going to have to be wrong, whatever. Ordinarily, you'd want the squealer on the leading edge. So if the rotor spins this way, you'd want the squealer down at the bottom. But I guess that's what you get for buying AutoZone crap. So we're just going to put some of our brake lubricant here on the ears of the pad and slide it in. Nice and free. Okay, do the same thing here. Just a little dab. In you go. Just make sure they move nice and freely. And now we're going to go ahead and compress our caliper. We got our Lang compressor here. Just go ahead and set it up. Now what's nice about this guy is it ratchets. So you'll see just how easily it compresses them. breaking in a little bit. There we go, that should be better. Perfect. Nice and compressed. You're going to want to put these on in a way that is not twisting your brake line. Like so. Grab our bolts here. And in you go. All right, off camera, we're gonna go ahead and tackle the other side and then we'll go for a ride. All right guys, so before you get in your Jeep or your truck or your car or whatever and drive away, make sure you pump the brakes. Anytime you work on your brakes, you wanna pump them. Make sure you fill those calipers back up with brake fluid after compressing or replacing them. Now, you guys saw me do the right side on camera. I went to go do the left side off camera and my left caliper was seized. It would not compress. So we ended up having to make an emergency run to AutoZone, or was it Advanced Auto? One or the other, they're one and the same. And we had to pick up some calipers. So there will be another video on how to replace and bleed your calipers on your Wrangler JK or JKU. And with that being said, this thing runs good now, it stops good, and everything's good. We got a nice high pedal, and we got some fresh brakes. So please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.